Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Session 3, Day 3, Week 3 of ALYFE Connects, our very first virtual-only event brought to you exclusively by ALYFE Group. We've had another wonderful full day of sessions full of business insights and creative masterclasses, and tonight I am very happy to welcome back my personal favorite, Happy Hour, our nights in with alcohol ambassadors. Tonight we've got just the man for the job. He is the creator of some of the craftiest and most creative cocktails you'll find in Kuala Lumpur, Mr. James Estes. He is beverage manager at the PS150 Group and brand ambassador for Ocho Tequila. James will be with us talking all things tequila, telling us about the history and mystery of this exciting drink, as well as showing us how to make your own at home and also how to level up your home bar. So one that I'm sure will be a very happy hour indeed. Please help me welcome James Estes. Good evening.
Hi, Jacob. How are you?
Good, thank you, mate. I'm good. I'm very excited. I've got to say, happy hour sessions are always among my favorite. We've had some great guests, but there's just something about talking booze which I enjoy the most. So what can I say? Guilty.
Yeah, I think during these times especially, we need more happy hours. So pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Very well put. And what better drink to make you happy than tequila?
Exactly. Yes.
How have you been, mate? How has the lockdown period been for you?
It's been, I won't lie, it's been tricky. It's, I feel like, everyone's kind of in the same boat, but every day is a bit confusing. There's days where you kind of accept it, days where you're unsure. Yeah, I mean, it's, you just got to take it as it comes, I guess. But I'm trying to stay positive as much as I can and hoping for the best, hoping we come out of this. I don't think things are ever going to return back to normal, let's say. But I hope we get to a new normal soon. So cheers to that.
You're right. I mean, there's hopefully, at least in Malaysia, a little bit of light at the end with the conditional lifting. But, it's important to remember, of course, it's got to be safety first, as tough as it is for everybody. But have you, I know, of course, James, that your business is hospitality and events. So this is a difficult time. It's sad to say. But have you been able to use this time at home to think about how you're going to meet the new normal? Are you using this time for online training, for example? A couple of ambassadors we've spoken to are doing a bit of coaching, a bit of consulting online. Have you been able to do much of the same kind of thing?
Yeah, so I think with the current climate, it's kind of accelerated the way things were going anyway. So a lot of online activations such as this, a lot of the trainings I've been doing with my teams have been online through Zoom as well. So we've had to adapt some of the training material to fit that model. And again, engaging guests in new ways. Every day we're brainstorming about how we can stay current, stay active, and engage people in new and innovative ways. So yeah, it's been a big change. And every day there's something new every day. I mean, as you know, here in Kuala Lumpur, even in the last 2 days, there's been some really big changes and everyone's confused. So yeah, we're riding the wave and staying as current as we can. So.
Good, man. Well, it's good to see you staying positive, and it's very good to have you on board the show tonight. And I'm sure what you have to talk us through, I know you've got a presentation on the drink itself, on tequila itself, which I'm looking forward to hearing more about. How to level up your own home bar, which I think is crucial at a time like this. Of course, it's as relevant as you can get. And of course, showing us, what is the cocktail you've got for us? What will you be showing us how to make later on?
So we've been doing some videos on our PS150 Instagram page about cocktails at home. And one of the things I noticed that when bartenders are doing these videos, sometimes there's ingredients that are a bit obscure. There's tools that bartenders are using that not everybody would have at their home. So we're doing videos like today. I'm going to show you guys how to do a Paloma cocktail, which is one of my favorites. And it's really easy to do, and you can do it with tools and ingredients that are in your kitchen. No need to purchase any fancy bar equipment. So the Paloma I will show today. And then also for people that want to, let's say, stockpile cocktails or bottles at home, we do offer a delivery service, which I'll speak a bit more towards the end about how you can purchase booze, ingredients, ice, and bottled cocktails from us. And we're also offering a special discount for the viewers today, which will be valid for a week. I guess you'll put the code up later, but it's anybody that. Sorry? There we go. Yeah.
So thanks to James's generosity, anybody who is watching and visits the website below, ps150.my/delivery, and uses the code through the toy store will get you 15% off delivery, valid for the next week for ALYFE Connects viewers only. So James, thank you very much for that. It's always nice to save a bit of cash.
Yeah, of course.
Good man. All right, and we'll be sending that out, by the way, guys, in the survey at the end of the talk as well. So check the comments below the video. We'll send a survey out with more information also. And it's worth pointing out now, because I know that this is something we want to get started with, is that any comments below, comment below on Facebook, and we can bring them up on screen here. So don't be afraid to get some questions going to James. We've got him for the hour, so let's make the most of him. Usually consultants at his level charge a lot for their time, so we've got him here for free. Make the most of him. Ask whatever questions you want in the comments below. But first of all, we have a question from you for the audience. Am I right, James?
Yeah, so I would just like to know, I can't see who's tuned in at the moment, but I'm curious, whoever is, just to tell me your experience with tequila, whether it be good or bad. Do you like tequila? What tequilas do you like? I just want to kind of gauge where the viewers are at with their tequila experience and their tequila knowledge.
Interesting. All right, you heard the guys. So tell us your tales of tequila. Let us know when your first glass was, what it means to you, what your first memory or otherwise of tequila is. Usually people might not remember their first one. It usually hits people pretty hard.
And if you need to tune it down a bit, if it's not a PG rated story, you can edit it.
This is happy hour. This is happy hour. This is after dark. We can get racy with it. There's normally some good stories, we hope. So yeah, guys, you heard. So comment below your experience with tequila. Let us know. I think I'll start. I've got to be honest. My personal one is probably the usual cheap shit, the usual Jose Cuervo or something. Shots at uni,
Okay. What's one story, Jacob, that you had with Jose Cuervo?
I remember. I don't remember much. I suppose it was just like a supercharged. It probably wasn't even university. It was probably like high school days. And tequila was just introduced as this thing, which I don't know, just had that kind of mystique and menace about it at the same time. Like you knew if someone racked up the tequila shots, it was going to be a different kind of evening. It always signaled like taking the next step taking the next step into the night, if you like. And it was always a very risky one along a tequila-sized tightrope. But they're fun. I don't know the specific story, but what I do remember though is when I can't remember what it was exactly, but I remember trying years later like a very, very fine tequila, and it's like if you get the good quality stuff, it's like it's a lovely sipping drink. That's what I learned. So I learned it didn't have to be mainlined at a dive bar. You could sit and enjoy like a really nice smooth tequila as you would like any liquor. So I've seen
this expression that you tried. You said the finer expression. Which one was that? Do you remember?
I don't. I wish I did, but it wasn't one of the ones that you usually see behind the bar at cheap bars. It wasn't a Cuervo or something. What was it? I don't know. I wish it had stuck with me. I guess it was.
Was it a tall, long, dark bottle by any chance?
No, it was clear. I think it was a clear bottle. Or maybe it wasn't dark, or maybe it was blue. Maybe the same color-ish as like a bottle of Bombay Sapphire. Maybe that kind of color.
Okay.
Some kind of a dark one.
But yeah, I think a lot of people have drunk what's called mixto tequila. So Jose Cuervo actually have some mixto expressions, and they have some 100% agave expressions. The mixto expressions are 51% made from agave. The remaining 49% are generally syrups, fructose, additives that attest to you feeling a lot more hungover the next day or having a bad feeling. So I always advise people, when you're going for any type of tequila, always just check the bottle for the 100% agave label and make sure that you're drinking the good stuff. Yeah.
Well, you've just. I mean, this is a question I was going to say for the end Q&A, but we have already asking here why tequila 100% agave is better, and I think you just answered that question. It's the additives issue, right?
Exactly. Yes. So 100% agave, and you'll see. I've got a bottle of Ocho here for an example.
Oh, nice.
So you'll see there it says 100% Puro de Agave. All 100% agave tequilas have to have this label on the bottle. And that just ensures, yes, that you're drinking quality, and it will make your body will thank you in the morning for drinking something like that.
I'm sure it does, because it's not thanked me for drinking anything less than that, I can probably assure you. Look, James, we have a lot of questions here, but none answers to our question, I'm afraid to say just yet. Andy Lynn wants us to talk about the different types of tequila and whatnot. Howard asking about mezcal versus tequila, and Andy asking for basic masterclass for it, which are all good questions, but none answers that we're looking for. We're looking for people out there's experience. We're looking for you to answer us to start things off. So let us know, like, what your, if you remember what your favorite brand might be, or having tried different types, what your experience with it has been, any ridiculous stories. It is happy hour after all. We can probably share a few good laughs. So let us know.
Yeah, I want to hear the stories. I like the, especially the naughty stories. Those are my favorite.
I don't know, Lim comments. I'm not sure. I wonder what she got up to.
Shots of tequila gave me my best night in Phuket. LOL. What tequila was that, Lim?
Did she? Yeah, Lim. Do you remember? What brand? It doesn't sound like it. Night in Phuket. I'm not sure how the memory's going to serve.
Yeah. Phuket nights tend to be pretty blurry with or without tequila.
Where are we going with that? No, people are still asking us questions. No one seems to want to share. Maybe it's all just naughty stories.
Okay, no worries. If we have some questions, I mean, we can get into the presentation, which I think might answer at least some of the questions I've just seen you pull up.
See, JB, yeah, I think JB knows what we're talking about.
Hey, JB, what's up?
Shout out to JB. Yeah, I bet after Annie Phuket, of course, she does not remember. So we've got a lot of good questions we can save to the end, perhaps, then maybe, because a lot of people seem to be very interested in the story and whatnot behind it, and certain ways you can use it. So I'm sure this presentation you've got to share with us will answer some of those in advance. So I'll let you take the stage, sir.
Cool. Okay, so let's go into, again, answering some of these questions. I'm just going to bring up my visuals. I'm very technically challenged, so give me a minute while I set this up.
Problem at all.
Oh, here we go. Share screen. Okay, are we seeing what I'm seeing here?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, let me just put you full screen. Okay, so your full screen, mate, take it away.
Okay, so when talking about tequila or mezcal, the most important thing to understand is the raw material used to make these two spirits, which is the agave plant, which is pictured right here. So this plant is deeply rooted in history, in Mexican culture, and it actually, there's about 300 species and subspecies of this plant. It's actually in the lily family. A lot of people confuse it for a cactus. I do get a lot of people coming to the bar and saying, "Oh yeah, tequila, isn't that cactus juice made from cactus?" Whatever. But it's actually in the lily family. It's much closer to an asparagus or aloe vera, lily, something like this. So this plant here is actually the blue agave, one of, again, 300 species or subspecies. And this, the blue agave is used exclusively for tequila production. So that's one thing to note about the differences between tequila and mezcal. Just going through here's some other photos of different species of the agave plant. You'll see they do look quite different. The leaves are quite different. They vary in weight and size. Some are small like this. Some are quite cute. This one actually looks a little bit like a cactus, I think. This one especially. Some are quite large. This one here, you'll see the gentleman to the left here. The plant, the leaves are almost about as high as this gentleman here. The Karwinski agave, actually, you see a lot of these growing wild in Malaysia. This plant, about 75% of the agave varieties are indigenous to Mexico, but you do have a lot of wild agave growing in various parts of the world. I've seen some in Langkawi. I've seen some here in KL, and actually in Plaza Damansara, where we have Tickets Bar, you do see a lot of this variety growing outside as well, the Karwinski. Here we have a Tepesate, which is the one I showed you with next to the gentleman. Quite large. This one takes about 40 years to reach maturation, so quite a long time. And this is espadin. This is the variety of agave that's mainly used for mezcal. But for mezcal, you can actually use virtually any variety, almost any variety. But most common use for mezcal is the espadin, this one here. And again, here we have a Jimador harvesting what looks to be espadin as well. So again, this just gives you just a look into the different varieties, how they vary, and to show you that there is quite a lot into the agave category. But again, for tequila, we use only the blue agave. So very important to note that, yeah. And for you, any science geeks out there, here's just some scientific classification of the plant, and the subclasses in class, the order, and again, just reiterating that this is actually in the lily family, yeah, not a cactus. Hashtag not a cactus.
Hashtag not a cactus. Got it. Let's open.
Cool. And again, just to reiterate, there's about 300 species worldwide, 75% of which are indigenous to Mexico, Central America. The blue agave takes about 8 to 10 years to reach full maturity before it's harvested to make tequila.
You know what?
Some species. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you, James. It turns out that's my surname, Weber.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Wow. This drink is literally named after me. I've never been more proud.
Well, this is indeed your happy hour, Jacob.
Indeed, the happiest hour we have. Wow.
Cool. And then again, just some more points on the plant, what makes it unique. It stores the sun's energy during the day and synthesizes at night. This is a plant with very complex fructan chains. It's able to survive in incredibly harsh environments, and it really strives under stress, if you will. So it's quite a unique plant, and again, it's laden in history. Let me just go, there we go. So just some history of the plant. The ancient Aztec cultures actually would worship this plant and would use this plant in a way that I compared to Native Americans, how they would hunt buffalo and use all of the buffalo, the bones, the heart, the hide, the meat, nothing would go to waste. So this is very much the same. Yeah, this is very much the same in how the Aztecs use this plant. They would use it, let me just skip ahead. You'll see the leaves of the agave plant are called the pencas, and just at the tip of the leaves, you have this. I don't know if can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
My mouse here? Yeah. So this is just the end of the leaf, the agave leaf, the penca, and you'll see it's quite sharp. So they would use this as needle. You'll see the plant is also quite fibrous, so they would use it to make hemp, clothing, shelter. The plant was also used to make vinegars, medicines. So it was very much embodied into the culture of the ancient Aztec culture. They even had a goddess. This is quite a crude representation of Maihawel, who's the goddess of the agave, or also the goddess of fertility. And the legend had it that she had 400 breasts that would secrete agave nectar, 400 children, her 400 rabbits that would suckle at her breasts and, spread their joy through the land. So again, it was very much embedded into the ancient Aztec culture. Here's some ruins from Mexico City of an Aztec pyramid. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Apocalypto. Have you seen that, Jacob?
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah, it's got no spoilers or anything, but I mean, it's
a great film. Yeah,
it's a great film. It's pretty brutal. Like the image from the still from that movie that we're seeing now is a pretty harrowing scene.
So this gives you an idea of what the culture might have looked like in its peak. And again, a great film to watch, Apocalypto. Say what you will about Mel Gibson. It is a great movie, and it gives you some insight just to what things might have looked like. So one of the first agave beverages that was produced is pulque, which you can see here, which is thought to be about 2,000 years old. And you'll see in the plant here, you have this kind of milky looking beverage. And pulque is kind of like, the best way I can describe it is kind of like an agave beer. And to the best of my knowledge, this was discovered, as I've heard, that the story goes that there was a lightning storm one day, and a lightning bolt struck an agave plant, which started cooking it. And as it was left out, it began to ferment. The natives found this liquid and started drinking it and thought, whoa, hey, this makes me feel really good. It was a blessing from the gods, this pulque, yeah.
Imagine being the first person to take a sip of that. You'd think you'd think your world had changed.
Yeah, they were probably the first people to have the first happy hour as well, I imagine.
Right. So does it collect naturally like that in the plant on the top right, or is that like after a bit of a? So
this is kind of like an old school, I think old school production way, just to kind of show you how it might have been discovered. But this is now, they still make pulque in Mexico. I don't know of any commercial pulque brands, but when you're in Mexico, you'll see this on the side of the road where the producers will sell it, usually in like plastic bottles or something. And it's a fermented beverage. It tastes kind of like a light beer. I don't know how to describe it, but it is tasty. It's nice, and it's a cool part of history as well that they're still making this. So again, pulque being the first agave beverage, yeah, before tequila and long before mezcal. So here's some drawings again, just to give you some context, cultural context into the Aztecs and what they were doing. You've seen a lot of this in the movie Apocalypto, the ritual sacrifice. Here we go, some more paintings, and yeah, well. And then we come a bit more forward in history to the Spanish conquest. And obviously when the Spanish came, they desecrated the local population. And the Spanish brought with them, distillation methods. And it's believed when they, after they ran out of their brandy or port wine, that they started looking at this local raw ingredient. And what was born from this was the first distillate of what's called vino de mezcal, or mezcal as we know it today.
Interesting.
So yeah, someone was asking about the difference between tequila and mezcal. It's quite slight, and I will say that tequila is actually a style of mezcal. So there's a number of agave distillates or agave spirits that I would say. The two most popular are mezcal and tequila. But actually, all tequilas are mezcal, but not all mezcals are tequila, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good way of remembering it. It's somewhat. Can I compare it to whiskey and scotch? Is that?
Yeah, probably closer to like brandy and cognac, I would say.
Okay.
So there are some different rules that go into mezcal production. There are some different. There's a different process of how they cook the agaves, things they do in the fermentation, which I'll talk about now. So let's just talk about mezcal for a second. So here we have a picture of where these guys are. This is an underground pit filled with coals. You can see here, and this is the agave plant after it's been harvested, after the leaves have been cut off. And what's used for the production is the heart of the plant, which again you can see here. And this is called the piña, named that way probably because it looks a bit like a pineapple, though it's not a pineapple, obviously. And this is the part that we want to cook to extract the sweet juice that we use to ferment and then distill to make tequila or mezcal. So in mezcal production, the agaves are roasted. We have the cooking process. So again, into these pits in the ground, and then they're covered with discarded agave fibers, which are called bagoso. And these are thrown on top again to keep the smoke in, and that's why mezcals kind of have this smoky characteristic to them. So one key difference in taste between tequila and mezcal is the smoky quality, and this comes from the cooking. So if you can imagine that this pit is full of agaves and then dumped on top with agave fibers and then cooked slowly, you will have this very smoky finish to mezcals, which some people like and some people don't like.
So it's cooked in its own juices almost. It's cooked in its own flavor because it's sealed
essentially, yeah.
It's sealed with its own fiber. That's very interesting. So it's like okay, that's where the smoky comes from.
And I know it's hard to taste a cooked agave, but the first time that I tasted a cooked agave, it tastes kind of like a candied yam, or and it's quite fibrous. But when you taste the cooked agave, you really do taste the flavor of agave in the spirited expression, whether it be mezcal or tequila. So again, if anybody does get a chance to taste cooked agave, please do, and you will see that flavor is really represented in the bottle, and that's the idea behind any agave spirit worth its salt, is to maintain 100% agave retention. Okay. So again, one of the differences in the cooking process is the roast. The mezcal agaves are cooked in the ground. Once the agaves are cooked, we want to squeeze that juice out. And one of the most traditional methods is using this stone here called the Tahona stone, which is actually a volcanic stone. And this is a really old school method, using the donkey, and the donkey will go around here, move the stone around, crush the agaves. Not a lot of producers are using this method. The ones that are now using tractors to pull this around instead of donkeys, giving the animals a break. But generally, roller mills are quite common now in the agave production. But this is kind of one of the older traditional methods.
It's good to give the animals a break, of course. But wow, that is some old school processing. Like that is legit, like authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are some producers, especially small producers, that still use this, but on the commercial side, you don't see that so much anymore.
Yeah.
If you do, it's mainly for a show, if you're in the distillery and having a tour or something. So once we extract the juice, we want to ferment, obviously, and turn all those sugars into alcohol. So here we have the fermentation vat. Again, the bagoso, the agave fibers, are being added on top of the fermentation to, again, add a lot more character and flavor to the finished product. And this guy here, just looking at this today, this guy looks like Josh from Jungle Bird. I just wanted to, I don't know if he's there watching. He looks like a friend of mine. Anyway,
Josh, if you're there. So are these are they different? Are they new, fresh fibers, or are they the same ones that you had on top of the smoldering heap, as it were? Are these the same?
No, these ones won't be cooked. These ones, again, will be the fibers that have been discarded after they've been juiced, but there'd be separate fibers for the cooking and for the fermentation process.
Okay, cool. So there's like a double sealing almost in itself. That's what gives it so many.
Yeah, like an agave insulation process.
Right. Yes. Well, that sounds better than sounds better than this other stuff you keep in the ceiling. Yeah, agave insulation.
Yeah. So again, with mezcal, it's important to remember that mezcal is any distilled spirit made from the agave plant, and again, any agave. But roughly 40 to 50 different varieties of agave are used for mezcal production. Just up here, we were talking about agave spirits, agave distillates. So we have tequila, which everybody knows, mezcal, everybody knows. The other ones that are a bit more obscure are sotol, bacanora, and raicilla, which I will talk about briefly just because I think it's important that people understand that it is a very wide category. It is a very culturally important category, and there's a lot of care and a care that goes into the production, and also care that goes into overseeing that it is adhered to the rules and regulations set forth by the authorities that maintain that the spirit is being controlled and that it's being produced in the right way.
Wow. Okay. There really is many people take it really as seriously as well, it is one of the finest, spirits in the world by that distinction. People take this thing very seriously because it's so culturally important.
It is. I mean, I would, from my personal opinion, it is one of the most unique spirits in that it is embedded in so much history and that it is really unique. The flavor of the agave is quite a unique flavor. Again, why I said if you've ever had a chance to taste cooked agave, it really puts it in perspective when you drink tequila or mezcal.
Wow.
But here we have just a little bit of information. I won't dwell on this too long about bacanora, one of the other agave distillates. And this is a label on one of the commercial brands of bacanora, which you don't see here in Kuala Lumpur yet, but hopefully soon. And again, we have raicilla, which is quite similar to mezcal. This La Venenosa, this brand has been in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia before. Sotol is actually an interesting one. The plant, so it's made from I can't pronounce this properly, the Dicilarion willeri, or desert spoon, which was once considered part of the agave family and then was taken out. So sotol is still an agave, it's considered an agave distillate, but it is not actually made from an agave plant anymore.
I guess on a technical, I like the point there for people who are reading this. I like the point there about the technicality. Like, I don't think the Mexicans mind too much. So
yeah, so I think it was already in there. They just left it.
Right, exactly.
And again, this has its own flavor profile, its own distinct taste and flavor and process. And this is one of the commercial brands you do see a lot. I have seen this brand in Singapore quite frequently, and it is delicious. But again, just giving you a well-rounded view on the category, the spirits category as a whole. And this picture here is the CRT, or Consejo Regulador de Tequila. I like to call these guys kind of like the Tequila Council, or the Jedi Council of the tequila world. This is the governing body that enforces the rules, the regulations, that check the distilleries and ensure that everyone's following the right practice in their production, making sure that what's being exported out is true Mexico. Yeah?
You know what? I bet their office Christmas parties are off the hook.
Oh yeah, oh no, definitely. They're probably having happy hour right now, I'm sure.
Every hour, it's 9 to 5 happy hour.
Yeah.
Actually,
so yeah, so that's a bit about. Let me just close this. Let's see, because I do want to make sure we have enough time to talk about Ocho. So again, let's go back here. Sorry, 1 sec.
No worries.
So again, the CRT controlling the enforcing the rules and regulations. Here's the CRT stamp on one of the aged expressions, just showing that they've been in to check the barrels and make sure that, they've got their seal of approval. And again, just going into the tequila category now, talking about the rules, regulations. One thing I mentioned about tequila is that it has to be made from the blue agave only. So this is one distinct fact that separates it from mezcal. There are also different categories of tequila. We have tequila and tequila 100%, which we did talk about a bit in the beginning. And then we have our classes, Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, Extra Añejo, and Gold. So really, these classes are the aged expressions of tequila, okay? So a Blanco tequila is either bottled from straight from distillation, or it's given a period of about 2 months where it can be rested in or aged, let's say for in an oak barrel before it's bottled. So you can age a Blanco tequila, or they call it resting, for up to 2 months before it's bottled, and it can still be classified as a Blanco. Okay. Reposado tequila are tequilas that are generally aged 2 months, no more than 1 year. Okay, so that would be Reposado. Then we have Añejo, which are aged tequilas that are aged for a minimum of 1 year and no more than 3 years. And if you notice the trend here, the extra Añejo is anything that is aged 3 years minimum and up, and no more than 5 years. There's actually also an extra Añejo category, which are tequilas that have been aged for 5 years or more. Okay, and then we have our gold category, which will fall into the mixto category. And these are the ones that I would suggest probably best to avoid if you can, unless you want to wake up feeling very confused in Phuket or wherever you may.
If you even make it that. Okay, so it goes from, so Blanco is more is like, I don't want to say baby tequila because that sounds terrible, but like virgin tequila, I suppose, like the youngest, in terms of palate and taste, what is like the main difference as you go down the well, I guess down the list, but up in years?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. The Blancos are kind of, I wouldn't call it the young expression, I would call it the naked expression. So this is the full agave flavor. Bam, it's right in your face. It is very delicious. As you age, you tend to lose a little bit of agave flavor in the aged expressions as it takes on flavors from the wood, whatever you're aging in. So they tend to become a bit softer, a bit sweeter, and you might get some more, caramel notes, coffee notes, red fruit notes on the nose and on the taste. So one thing I've always done, working behind the bar and trying to convert people, oftentimes quite successfully, converting people to the tequila category, is to get people started on, especially your cognac drinkers, your whiskey drinkers, to get them started on the aged expressions like Extra Añejo or Añejo. And these are kind of good gateways into the category if you're not used to drinking tequila, or if you're unsure, because there will be some familiarity in the taste that you'll find in these expressions. So I think it's always best, if you're not familiar and if you're hesitant, start with an Añejo is good, or maybe an Extra Añejo. Again, the price range of these will go up. Market price will go up on the aged expressions. This doesn't mean that one is better than the other. Obviously, when you age, it takes more time. And when you age, you end up losing a bit of your volume to the angel share. So this is why the prices go up as the age statements go up. But again, this doesn't mean that it's better than the Blanco or worse. It's really a matter of opinion. So some people prefer the Añejos. I started with aged tequilas before I really got into Blancos. So if you asked me 6 years ago, I would have said I prefer an Añejo. And now I much prefer the Blanco. Prefer the Blanco.
Interesting. Naked expression. Yeah. I'll remember that.
Yeah, I had a guy in one of the members clubs I used to work in London years ago. It was Idris Elba was one of my regular guests. And he's a cognac drinker, and he asked me, I want to try something different. If he got any good cognacs, and I tried to sell him on tequila, and he just wouldn't have it. So I said, okay, let me get something, and I think you're gonna like it. And I poured him tequila. It was an aged extra añejo, and served it to him, and he, blew his socks off. He's like, wow, this is amazing. He's like, I've never tasted a cognac. What cognac is this? And I told him, I'm like, that's a tequila, and he couldn't believe it. So.
Wow.
So again, just reiterating that the aged expressions are good to start with if you're unfamiliar or unsure.
Well, there's one guy to get on. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Because it was that smooth, because of that just like the little velvety texture, you might say.
Yeah, and I think again there was just that familiarity in the aged expressions that you'll find if you're used to drinking brown spirits like whiskeys, cognacs, things like this. So again, these classes are, and the age requirements, age statements, these are all things, again, that are part of the rules of tequila production that must be followed if it is going to be marketed and called tequila. One of the most basic ones, which again, I don't know if I mentioned, that all tequila and mezcal has to be made in Mexico, okay? And in Mexico, and in specifically one of 5 states in Mexico. So here, we have a map of Mexico on the top. This little area here, I think, is where Trump is building his wall slowly, or maybe he stopped it now. And then we have Baja California here, and then we have kind of the heart of Mexico. And then the 5 states of our tequila production. Okay. Jalisco is the state that produces about, if I remember correctly, about 93% of the world's tequila come from Jalisco. And Jalisco is even more separated by 2 regions. We have the Tequila Valley here, and the Highlands, or the Los Altos region. The Tequila Valley. Sorry,
I didn't. Sorry, I just did not know there was an actual Tequila Valley. That's pretty cool.
There's a town in the Tequila Valley called Tequila. You can see here. And this was the town where they first started producing mezcal in a different way, using brick ovens instead of cooking it in the ground, using only the blue agave. And the style of mezcal became so popular, it was quite smooth. It was quite a lighter style of mezcal, if you will. And it became so popular that it just became known as tequila eventually. But it originated in the town of Tequila in Jalisco, very close to Guadalajara, which you can see here.
Put it that way, it makes sense that, of course, the drink would be named after the place in many ways. Yeah.
Seems obvious. Yeah, exactly. Just like cognac. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. It seems obvious now that I hear it.
Yeah. So let me just check this. So again, the regions in Jalisco, again, we have the Highlands, the Los Altos region, and Tequila Valley. So there are some extreme differences in climate in these 2 regions, which I will talk about more when I go into the brand side of it. But it's important to note that this state produces 93% of the world's tequila that we're drinking today come from this one state and in these 2 regions. And in the Los Altos region, you have, again, like I said, very different climate, very different soil. In the Los Altos region, we have very red oxide soil, very rich in iron. The elevation above sea level is about 2,000 meters above sea level. We have very hot days and very cool nights, again, which is really important. And on average, higher sugar content for the agaves that come from the highlands. And the Tequila Valley, sometimes often misquoted as the lowlands. It is still quite high above sea level. It is lower than the Los Altos region, but again, 1,600 meters elevation above sea level. And then we have volcanic soil. This is the Tequila Valley with its famous volcano in the back. So volcanic soil, brown soil versus the red oxide soil. And we have hot days and hot nights again. And this really attests to the finished product, this climate, the soil, and the elevation. Okay, so important to remember that when we get into the brand side. Before we get into the brand side, I do want to talk a bit about tequila production since we've covered mezcal and run through Bacanora, Sotol, and Raicilla quickly.
Yeah, please do.
Tequila production. Yeah, tequila production. So this actually starts with this gentleman here, or these gentlemen, I should say. So this guy is called a Jimador.
From this guy.
Yeah, and these guys have a really tough job, a really laborious job. They work in the fields under the hot sun, and they use this tool here called a koa, which kind of looks like something you'd take a pizza out of the oven with if you're working in a pizza shop. And this tool is really sharp. you could cut your toes off if you weren't careful. Obviously, this guy's got a safety net on. But taking this plant out, these guys can do it in less than a minute. And I've tried one myself. Last time I was in Mexico, I think it took me 6 minutes, and I barely got the thing out of the ground, and I was dying. So these guys make it. They do it very effortlessly and do it extremely well. It's also their job to know when the agave plant is ready to harvest for maturation. So again, these guys are really crucial to the production of agave tequila and mezcals. Okay, so once the plants are harvested, again, you'll see we have the piña, the heart of the plant, after all the leaves are cut off. And then for tequila, we cook the agaves. The most traditional method, and the one we use for Ocho, is cooking in a brick oven. And this is steam cooked for about 3 days, let's say on average. And again, the agaves are crammed into these ovens, slowly cooked to release that sweetness from them. I'll go into this on the Ocho side. And then once we have that juice, we want to extract. And this is a picture of a roller mill in one of the distilleries. So the agaves will come up here, they'll get shredded and also blasted with water from a spring very close to the distillery. And then once we have that juice extracted from the agave fibers, we then will ferment it. Also want to talk about some other methods of cooking. As I mentioned, for tequila, most traditional method is using the brick oven, steam cooking in a brick oven versus cooking it in the ground like we do for mezcal. There are some newer methods, one of which is shown here, and this machine is called an autoclave, and it's basically like a really big pressure cooker. Some people would say this is better to use. Some people would disagree. Using this machine, the immediate benefits would be that there's less time to cook. So you can do this within 1 day, and you're actually going to yield more juice by using this machine. So if you're somebody that's very concerned about your, time is money and your profits, this would be an ideal machine to use. Sure. But again, the finished product, it will affect the finished product. And there are a lot of 100% agaves, 100% agave tequila expressions that are using this machine. And if you taste one that's been used with an autoclave or another machine called a diffuser, this is a diffuser here, which has been a machine of hot topic of debate in the last few years. And this machine actually takes it one step further, so you can cook in less time than with the autoclave. And as I understand, this machine, it doesn't actually cook. You put the agave inside one end, and it comes out the other juiced, let's say, or cooked. But it actually extracts the juice by blasting it with high-pressured water and some kind of chemical process. So it doesn't actually cook. It more breaks the agave down in a very quick way, and again yields more liquid. This might be ideal for some people. For us at Ocho, we do not use this. We try to adhere to traditional methods as much as possible and as much as we can. But I think it's important that people do know that even if you're ensuring that you're drinking 100% agave, some of them may use this machine, and it's always best to ask your bartender, who should be knowledgeable about the production process and can steer you to something. And then you can taste the difference back to back if you have two expressions of different cooking methods. But again, these are some of the newer methods that have been introduced in the last 10 years that are a bit different, let's say.
I'm sure they're great, as you pointed out just now. I mean, these are obviously great and they're efficient. They're great for the industrialist, but less so perhaps for the purist. I guess, like, some people would take pride in how long it takes to heat and extract naturally, or more naturally, I guess, rather than pressure cooking.
And there might be some people that will taste 100% agave tequila that's been cooked in an oven, and taste one that's been cooked with a diffuser, and some people might prefer the taste. I don't know. It's really a subjective thing. But generally, I think, and I think I speak for every agave enthusiast, that it's always better to remain traditional in the process.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, we have our donkeys. I think I've mentioned this already. The Tahona stone process, and then the fermentation for tequila. We have here fermentation is done in pine wood vats or stainless steel. You'll see here some stainless steel, 18,000 liters. Some of these are quite huge, some of these are quite small. And then distillation. All tequila must be distilled twice. The first distillation of tequila is called something called ordinario, and it kind of tastes like rose water, basically tasteless. And then it must be distilled the second time. There's only a few brands that I know of that do a triple distillation or beyond that. But by law, again, one of the laws and things to remember is that tequila must be made in Mexico, must be made in one of the 5 states and municipalities in those states. It must be made with the blue agave, and it must be distilled 2 times.
It must be distilled 2 times. Is that like a quality control thing, or that is because literally it doesn't become the liquid it is until the second time?
Yeah, I mean, the first distillation, as I said, is called ordinario, so it's not tequila. It doesn't have the tastiness that you want, the flavor that you want. So it's just not. So it's not tequila until it's distilled twice.
Got it.
And then again, we have our bottling and aging, and I talked about the aged expressions, blancos, reposados, añejos, and extra añejos. So that's the next stage of the tequila process, if you like. And then also, just to quickly talk about glassware, how important I think glassware is when you're, as you mentioned, that you had this tequila that you were sipping, and you never thought about tequila being a sipping tequila. Yeah, I mean, you'd be amazed at when people order shots in the bar and you serve them in a glass like this versus a glass like this. This glass really says, "Whoa, hang on, this is something different." And then this just shows you it transcends that idea that this is not something you want to shoot. Excuse me. This is not something that you want to shoot. This is something you want to sip and enjoy and let it breathe, let it open up, because it will change and develop in the glass if you give it time to. So again, and if you want to shoot it, hey, that's fine. Cabalitos work great. This is a Riedel glass that was actually designed specifically for sipping tequila. So again, this isn't just hearsay. This is something that is proven, that glassware is very important for your experience when you're sipping and enjoying tequila by yourself or with your friends. Okay, and then we have copitas, these little clay jars. We have these in tickets as well. I'm sure if anybody's there, tickets guests watching, you've probably seen these. These are made out of clay and go really good with mezcal because they just have a way of kind of softening some of the sharper mezcals that you might find. And a friend of mine here in Kuala Lumpur, Rick, has a bar called Jaloco. They use these a lot, these jicaras, which are also fun to use. I've had to just convey that it's not something that is meant to be shot all the time. Yeah, it's meant to be sipped and enjoyed and savored and appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Well, although I must admit, I'm guilty to trying at least a couple of jicaras at Jaloco, but the last time I was at Tickets, I didn't get around to the mezcal there, so I didn't get a chance to try what was it, a chupito from your place, from Tickets?
Which one?
What's the one how is it you serve it in the small bowls at Tickets? I haven't
the copita. Yeah, we use the copita, and then we use kind of like glassware, not exactly like this, but a similar style kind of nosing glass. We use it for all of our flights and for all of our shots as well. People just want to have a shot. We still serve it in the glass so people understand that there's something to consider before shooting it, if that's the path you decide to go down.
You got to just slowly just change behavior. You got to enforce like a new standard upon people sometimes. Show them how it should be done.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I always think it's good to educate consumers, guests in the bar. But at the end of the day, people want to enjoy stuff the way they want to enjoy it. So as long as you give them some options and try to steer them on the right path, your job is done, I feel like. But at the end of the day, you should enjoy it the way you enjoy it. That's the best way. So yeah, I'm gonna close this one now and just bring up the Ocho. So now that we have a better understanding about agave and agave spirits, do we have any questions there? Any pending questions or?
Yeah, we had a couple actually. We got one in from Mr. Nicholas Ung, who's wondering about the different types of tequila, from Blanco down to Añejo and so on. Would you say the underaged ones are better for cocktails?
Well, if they're underage, they better have some ID, Nicholas. Okay, otherwise they're not going to be drinking. No, I mean that's a good question. I think generally unaged tequilas are really good, especially for bartenders that might not know a lot about tequila cocktails. There's a saying we have that anything gin can do, tequila or mezcal can do better. Okay, so there are drinks like The Last Word, Corpse Survivor #2, that you can just substitute the gin for an unaged tequila, such as a Blanco tequila, and it works really well. Or an unaged mezcal, same, it'll work really, really well. But again, it depends on the cocktail you're making. One of my favorite cocktails is a Sazerac, which I actually used with cognac, which was the original spirit used in it. But if you swap the cognac out for an aged tequila, like an extra añejo, it's really, really nice. And I substitute the sugar for agave nectar and stir it down. So it really depends on what you're making. But I would say generally unaged tequilas are more accessible on a wider array of cocktails, to answer your question, Nick.
Good, excellent answer. Thank you. Thank you, Nick, for the question. And I hope that sounds like a pretty good answer. And we have an interesting one. This is a bit more general, but on the note of cocktails, Mr. Forrest Chan is wondering, on the circuit as a bartender, does each one have their own signature or personal?
I think there are a lot of bartenders, that have their signature cocktails. I definitely have a few of mine, some that are more well known than others, but it really depends on the bartender. But yeah, a lot of my guys, especially my team, I do encourage creativity and to get them involved, get the juices flowing. So I would say, if you're a bartender and you don't have an original cocktail or a signature cocktail of your own that you like to showcase, then you're probably doing something wrong and you probably need to fix that. So I would say, yeah, every bartender, if you speak to them, ask them what they like or ask them if they have any twists or if they're working on new competitions. Yeah, for sure. There's loads and loads of signature cocktails.
And we have Forrest is also, he has asked an interesting question, maybe like a deliberate, have you ever, maybe this is like a deliberate thing just to push the envelope or push the boundaries, but in terms of cocktail making, but have you ever created something which is deliberately disgusting? I mean, I've never heard of a cement mixer or crocodile tears, but it doesn't sound particularly palatable. Have you ever heard of these?
No, I don't. What can you ask him? What is a cement mixer or crocodile tears?
Forrest, tell us below what a cement. This sounds like maybe another Phuket special. Maybe him and Lim Lim have been partying and trying out some crazy things over there in Phuket. Cement mixer.
The only thing I've made like that, which I used to do for friends' birthdays in high school, we would make something called a gorilla fart, which was, if I remember, it was a mixture of overproof rum and overproof whiskey. And it's in a shot, and it doesn't taste very. Hence the name gorilla fart. You can imagine if you tasted a gorilla, your face after you drink this is probably the same expression. So yeah, to answer your question, but that's not something I would push on guests in the bar. That's something we would do just for birthdays.
How's that? But you know what? I'm actually amazed we got an answer to that question. So thank you, Forrest. We have a good question here from Andy Lim. Actually, he's wondering what food is best paired with tequila or for serving tequila.
Oh yeah, good question. I mean, when you're in Mexico, some of the best food to have with tequila is carnitas. And in Los Altos, specifically in the town of Arandas, there's a very famous carnitas restaurant there called Jaime's. And I mean, yeah, if you've got really good carnitas, tacos, and tequila going, and cheese, I mean, that's all you need. So, what food is best paired for with tequila? I would say Mexican food, real Mexican food. Yeah,
makes sense. That makes sense. Good question. And okay, cool. So we've got a little bit of time left, so I know you want to take us through the journey of Ocho itself. So tell us all about this brand that you're working with.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was just yammering on away there. We don't have a lot of time left, so we can go. Are we good on time, or?
Yeah, we're good on time. Please fire away. We don't worry about going slightly over. I know Andy's enjoying himself, and he's learning a lot about tequila. Cool. Jason Tan too. So
Let me get up the next slide, and I'll do my best to be as brief on the bullet points as possible.
Tequila, I mean, you have a very full resume and a very colorful and creative one at that when it comes to cocktails and mixology in general. So any tequila brand that you're working with, there's got to be something about it, I'm sure. So I'm looking forward to finding out what that is.
Oh yeah, well, Ocho is a very special brand and one that's always been close to my heart, even before I started getting involved with the brand in a professional sense, let's say. But Ocho, so now that we know about the differences of tequila, mezcals, to talk about Ocho as a brand, what makes it unique, it really starts with this gentleman here. And this is a photo of my uncle, James Estes, who is one of the co-founders of the brand.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
you need to share your screen if you don't mind. I think you might need to start
Oh,
sharing
okay. Yeah, I thought I was sharing it. I'm going off here. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I told you I'm technically challenged.
That's all right. I hope it wasn't my fault. I clicked on something, but just as you finished the last one, so just bring up the PowerPoint again.
Oh, hold on. I appear to have lost. Wait.
Jason time. All right, good. Maybe we can do that once all this is over.
Aha. Okay, here we go.
Here
You got it there?
We got it. Hang on a sec. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
This is your uncle, Mister.
So this is my uncle, Tomas Estes.
Estes. Okay.
And he is one of the co-founders of the brand. So I'll just take you quickly through kind of his journey and what led him to conceptualize and create the brand. So this is a picture of my uncle back in his 20s, I'm thinking, I think this was taken in Los Angeles, where my father and my uncle grew up. And my uncle was a teacher, a high school teacher at the time, so he would have the summers off. He spent a lot of time traveling. And one of his favorite places to go was Mexico, because he loved the food, he loved the culture, he loved the music, and he loved tequila. He also would do some frequent trips to Europe. Also, Amsterdam was a place he visited quite frequently. And what he noticed was that there wasn't any, at the time, there were no restaurants doing Mexican food or serving tequilas. So he saw a gap in the market and said, you know what, I want to go open a Mexican restaurant in Amsterdam. And in 1976, he did exactly that. This is a photo of him here in his first restaurant, Café Pacifico, which was located on the Wormerstraat in Amsterdam. And this place became really well known in the community because of the distinguished guest lists that were coming in. So this is a picture of Queen, the band Queen. You'll see Freddie Mercury here. And they were in, this is in 1978, Café Pacifico in Amsterdam. These are members of the Jackson 5. Also having a happy hour, probably many happy hours in Café Pacifico with my uncle there in the middle.
What a wonderful place is living already.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, if you ever watched Cheech and Chong. This is a picture of Cheech Marin and my uncle having a happy hour at Pacifico as well. Have you ever seen those movies, Cheech and Chong?
No, I've never actually seen the movies. I know vaguely of Cheech Marin, but I've never actually seen the show. You know, maybe it's just a little my time.
They're pretty hilarious. So yeah, what was happening in this Mexican restaurant in the middle of the red light district in Amsterdam, and all these celebrities were going there. So the place had a lot of hype. And then, again, this is before social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. So there was a lot of talk about it. So it did very well. So well, in fact, that my uncle went on to open locations in Paris. This is a shot from Café Pacifico in Paris, 1982, I believe. This is Café Pacifico in London, which is still there today and is actually the oldest running Mexican restaurant in London. That's Café Pacifico in Covent Garden. This is a picture of Hunter S. Thompson leading an interview he was having in Café Pacifico.
It's up on your wall. Like that guy knows. That guy knows where the party's at.
Yeah. So you know Hunter S. Thompson, right?
Yeah. God, the Gonzo journalist.
Okay, cool. I've done this training with some young bartenders that are like, Hunter S. Thompson, who's that? So anyway, good. I'm glad that you catch the reference. So again, this is Café Pacifico London. As the my battery's running low. As the brand Café Pacifico grew, my uncle was bringing in a lot of tequilas to his restaurants in Amsterdam, in London, and Paris. And through this, in Mexico, it was noted that, why are we sending a lot of tequilas out to Mexico? And my uncle got to rub elbows with some of the big players in the industry. This is my uncle here in Mexico, in Guadalajara. Next to this gentleman here is Don Julio Gonzalez, the founder of the brand Don Julio.
Wow.
So this is a picture of my uncle with Julio Bermejo, who's a good friend of his. Julio Bermejo is actually the tequila ambassador for North America. His official title is given by the Mexican government. And my uncle was awarded the title of tequila ambassador to Europe.
Wow.
Julio Bermejo is actually also the creator of the Tommy's Margarita, one of the drinks we push a lot in tickets. So that's them together. And through meeting all these people in the tequila industry, tequila world, my uncle came across Carlos, this gentleman here, Carlos Camarena, who's the other founder of Ocho and the master distiller. And he's kind of like the brains behind everything. So my uncle and Carlos got together and conceptualized this idea of Ocho, which was to be the first single estate, and still is the first and only single estate tequila on the market. Sorry, let me just skip these. So what does that mean? Sorry, can you give me just a second? I need to plug in my charger, otherwise I'm gonna crash. So sorry, Jacob, give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. You can't. We're still on screen. Well, who'd have thought it, guys? So while we're waiting for James to grab his charger, if you have any more questions, do get them in below. And then we've answered a lot of them already. James, I think, has just died on us. So let's hope he can get his charger back soon. I'm not sure whether that's his connection or his battery, but either way, I'm sorry. Do stand by. We are having some minor technical difficulties. But while we're waiting for James to get back with the power, let us know if you have any questions in the comments below. We can try and get around to a few of them before the session is up. Likewise, if you found the session particularly useful and interesting and would like to know more about PS150's delivery service, we'll be sending out surveys in the comments below the Facebook video just after the session is done. So please keep an eye out for that and do give us your feedback. It is always useful for us to know what you're enjoying and hopefully not enjoying about what we're doing here at ALYFE Connects. So we'll be sending out a survey. We'll have with it all of the information of the PS150 delivery service. I think James, I can see in the studio here, James has just left us. The power has died. I'll wait for him to try and get back, but he might have to restart his computer, so he might be a while. We've got a couple of questions here. Good one from Andy Lerman, which is intriguing me about how to. I mean, usually you only drink tequila with salt and lemon when you're drinking it with a shot, but Andy seems to have been told to try a different kind of combination, which I would like to ask James about. So otherwise, yeah, get your comments and questions in below. Your personal experiences with tequila, like we asked at the beginning, if you have any sort of stories you wanted to tell, any kind of experience you had, what your first shot of tequila was, or maybe what your first sip, if you're doing it the proper and matured way, should be. Hopefully, I think I just heard a sound. James is about to log in, so we've got him back. Crisis averted. His charger should be with him. But like I said, if you're interested in knowing more about PS150's delivery, visit the website below, ps150.my/delivery, and use the code through the toy store. Through the toy store will get you 15% off home delivery service. That's like ready-made cocktails, bottled cocktails delivered to your door. Use the code through the toy store for 15% off that delivery. Hello, mate. Welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer died.
No worries.
Happy hour. So sorry, where were we at? Did we have some questions?
So we had I was asking for them while you were gone. I think Andy's got a good one here. Talking about shots. Most people drink them with salt and lemon, but Andy was recommended orange and cinnamon powder. What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts. So again, with the salt and lime, we call this in the industry training wheels. I try to steer people away from doing this because when you do it with salt and lime, you're going to completely destroy your palate. So all of those little flavors and nuances you're going to find in the expression are going to be just erased immediately if you do that. If you're drinking a mixed tequila, probably salt and lime is a good idea for your own sake. But again, I would recommend not doing this. The orange and cinnamon powder, actually it's good flavors that go nice with the aged expressions. If you're going to opt to do this, I would take the orange and cinnamon in a way that is complementary to the spirit rather than take a shot and then orange and cinnamon all over your palate. You know, maybe have a sip of a bite of orange. You know, I think that's a better way I would advise to do it. But again, as you like. But generally, I try to steer people away from using training wheels. To answer your question.
All I can think about when you say cinnamon with the cinnamon and that is just the cinnamon challenge, you know, which doesn't look fun for anybody. And so. All right, so go make sure it matches the expression, but go with it. You know, go with it, not against it. Good stuff. Where were we? I think you were just about to show us. Well, it was still the early days of Cafe Pacifico, and like I think your uncle had met. This is just after he met the official, just after the official tequila ambassador. to North America, which I think is like an official title bestowed upon you by the Mexican government. It says this man is tequila. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
I bet every kid in Mexico grows up wanting to be the tequila ambassador to North America, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to give you some more personal context, but I was a kid. I grew up in London. I was born in London, grew up there, and then went to high school in the States, like my dad and my uncle. And my uncle lived in Paris at the time with my cousins and my aunt, obviously, and we would visit them quite frequently. And there was a time we were visiting in Paris, and I was a little kid, maybe 3, and I busted my tooth. I jumped off a table or something, I think I'd watched Peter Pan, and I was trying to fly, and busted my tooth. And my uncle, my dad just walked me around near the Notre Dame, and they told me they gave me spoonfuls of tequila to help the pain and make sure I could go to sleep. So tequila is very much in our family.
Tequila is very much in your blood. Like tequila is
very much in my blood. Yeah.
No wonder.
And yeah, I work with Ocho here in Southeast Asia. My cousin as well. He's now taking over my uncle's role as a global ambassador. And then Carlos Camarena, he obviously works at the brand, our master distiller. And his daughter Fanny works in Mexico on the Mexico side of things. So we're very much a family brand, family operated and run. And yeah, it's one of the core values of Ocho, I think. And what I was
I'm sharing your screen here, mate, but I can't see there's nothing on there but a blank screen.
Sorry. Let me. How about now?
Yeah. Oh, so that's better. Maybe.
Okay, let me get back to where we were. And I think what I was talking about is that Ocho is a single estate. So what does that mean? That every year, and this is something, again, conceptualized by my uncle and by Carlos, is to create an expression of tequila that represented a single ranch or a single field. So you'll see here, this is a map of Arandas, where they have the really nice carnitas I was mentioning earlier. And this is in the Los Altos region of Jalisco. So again, we have Guadalajara, we have Tequila Valley, and then we have Arandas. And in Arandas, these are, this one's not up to date, but these are some of the ranches that are used each year for every expression of Ocho. So every year, the agaves, again, the raw material used to make tequila, come from one field and one field only. And each one of these fields, or ranches as we like to call them, have their own kind of personality, their own flavor profile. Every year it tastes different. And every year it's labeled to represent the year of production and the field from which the agaves came from. So just to give you some reference on what that means, this field here, the Los Mangos, this was my favorite year personally, and I think a lot of the family, we all agree that this was our favorite year and expression. This field, it used to be a mango orchard before they started growing agave there. And I kid you not, when you taste the Los Mangos, you can taste mango at the end of it, like just on the finish, really, really nice and subtle. And then we had the 2011 El Puertecito, where is it? Which was a lot spicier, more peppery. So every year it's a big change in the flavor profile, and that's something that is striving for Ocho. And again, bringing the concept of terroir, which is most commonly associated with wine production, to the tequila category. So again, I mentioned that the highlands, the agaves have higher sugar content. We have hot days, cool nights. We have different soil than the Tequila Valley. So the agaves change. So Ocho is taking it one step further by creating single ranches, and every year it's a unique expression. And once it's bottled and out, that's it. It becomes a unique product. So this is the one key factor that does separate us from a lot of other brands. Again, this is just some history. I think I've mentioned most of this about the partnership between my uncle and Carlos. Just a bit about the Camarena family. Their distillery was established in 1937, 100% Mexican company and 100% privately owned. Growing and controlling all their agaves and their ranches, using traditional methods as well. So everything in Ocho is very traditional. Okay, so the cooking, we use the brick ovens, 48 hours. The the first 8 hours of cooking are discarded. Actually, Carlos believes this that the first 8 hours is kind of like a cleansing process when the agaves have just come from the field. And so the first 8 hours, it's cleansing for the agaves. He doesn't want any impurities, any other flavors that aren't that take away from the retention of agave flavor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, traditional cooking method. We use a roller mill, and people have asked us, why not use a Tahona stone because it's more traditional. As I said, you do yield less, and we actually found that by using the roller mill, you actually get more agave flavor from the roller mill than using the Tahona stone, which is it's shared among different brands. There are some brands that use a mixture of Tahona stone and roller mill, but for us, we do use the roller mill. And we ferment in very small 3,000 liter capacity wooden vats. So there aren't a lot of producers doing that. And again, that adds a bit more character and complexity to the finished product. The open vats, we allow airborne yeast to come in and mix freely with the must, the mosto, the mix, or the mash, as you might call it. And this process lasts about 4 to 5 days. And then we have our first distillation performed in stainless steel pot of 3,500 liter capacity. And then the second distillation in a much smaller 300 liter copper pot still for the final distillation. Because as I mentioned, tequila must be distilled 2 times.
Twice.
Yep.
So
then we have
the capacity on the second one is like what, it's like a 10% worth almost of the first distillation. Is that because that much liquid is vaporized in the process, or like
sorry, the first distillation? What?
Yeah, so 3,500 liters compared to 300 is obviously a much smaller kind of still that you're working with. Is that because a lot of liquid is lost during the first distillation process, and this is like a much purer distillate, much lower distillate the second time around? Like a lot is lost in.
No, not really. Just the copper pot stills tend to be smaller anyway. And with the smaller still, you again, and with the smaller copper pot still, you're going to impart a lot more mouthfeel and flavor to it. Okay. That's not a difference in loss from the first distillation, no.
Got it. Cool.
Yep. And then again, we have our portfolio. So I just want to make sure I didn't skip over anything too important here. Oh, the name Ocho. Sorry, I should talk about this. Sorry, I know we need to wrap up soon, but the name Ocho, it means 8 in Spanish, obviously. The brand is actually called Muestra Numero Ocho, which was, so Carlos, the first expressions of Ocho, he created 12 samples and then wrote down his favorite one. And then he asked my uncle to taste all the 12 samples and write down on a piece of paper his favorite. And my uncle's favorite was Muestra Numero Ocho, which is sample number 8. And Carlos, once he saw my uncle's paper, he said, guess what? And he showed his paper, and they both agreed that number 8 was the favorite. And that was then the first commercial release of Ocho, was that first 8th sample. Was that so? Hence the name, yeah, Muestra Numero Ocho, or Ocho for short.
And so, if there was ever a vote of confidence, it would be between those two men. So, and they were both on the same number. So that's very
special. Were just reading each other's minds, yeah, which is no coincidence, I believe. And then again, after the name stuck, we noticed a lot of kind of convenient coincidences, or maybe not coincidences, but for example, it takes 8 days from when the agaves are harvested until they become a bottle of tequila. It takes an average of 8 years for the agaves to be ripened before they reach maturity. And it takes about 8 kilograms of agave to make 1 liter of tequila. Also, I was born on October the 8th. At 8:08 p.m. My cousin was born in 1988 in August, which is the 8th month. And actually, if you know, October used to be the 8th month before Julius Caesar put Julius and Augustus, July and August, into the calendar. So just some kind of funny things, coincidences that people ask about that sometimes. So if there was any question about it, there we go.
Truly written in the stars, the number 8.
Yeah. So again, just back to the portfolio, we do a Blanco expression, which is bottled straight from distillation. We don't do any resting beforehand. We have a Reposado, which we age just slightly over the minimum of 2 months. So it's 8 weeks and 8 days for our Ocho Reposado. And then we have Ocho Añejo, which is aged for 1 year. and extra añejo, which is aged for 3 years. Sorry. And with all the aged expressions, every one of our aged expressions is aged to the minimum requirement. And this is to ensure full agave retention and full agave flavor in the finished product. And again, all of these products you can purchase through us at Tickets, PS150, or Postscript. We are offering these products as part of our cocktail delivery and bottle delivery, I should say. So again, yeah.
And so can you are these available on the PS150 delivery service?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, amazing, excellent. So we'll give another shout out there. And by the way, guys, remember, use the code through the toy store on ps150.my/delivery, and it will get you 15% off your delivery for the next week, exclusively to ALYFE Connect viewers. So, James, thank you very much, mate, for sharing that with us. We are afraid we have to wrap this session up. Unfortunately, we've run a little bit over time, but we were thinking perhaps we'd love to invite you back next week for another happy hour where you show us how to make one of your famous cocktails, because I think we're all intrigued by this Paloma, and also share with us the secrets to making a really tasty home bar, because I know you know a thing or two. So yeah, please,
I'd be happy to do that. Even if you guys really want to learn the Paloma recipe or my Paloma recipe, you can visit the PS150 Instagram.
There we go.
There we go. There.
So check it out. They've been doing lots of cool content, lots of simple videos at home, which is refreshing actually. Which is nice. People need to find ways to keep themselves occupied. And I know a lot of people at home have been trying new recipes, trying new hobbies, skills, exercises, whatever. But it's always nice to be able to wind down the day with a drink, and one that you can make in the comfort of your own home too. So check out PS150 for simple recipes. And James, mate, thank you so much. I know you've shared a lot of information with us tonight, which I had literally no clue about. So thank you for that. My eyes have been opened to not just the different mezcal and tequila, but also the quality and the history, the heritage. It goes way further back than I could ever have imagined. And to hear, as you point out, to hear of a drink that is just so rooted, its legacy is so deeply rooted in the culture of a country, is always a very fascinating one. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sure it's been a very, very informative evening for everyone watching at home. So mate, we appreciate your time and effort. Thank you very much.
Cool, Jacob, thank you very much for having me. And for anyone still tuned in, thank you for tuning in. And I hope, that you guys learned something. And I hope next time you go for tequila that you do it with more discretion or more information.
More information,
and more enjoy safely. Yeah?
At least be an educated guess, and of course, yes, enjoy safely. So, thank you very much, James. We'll say goodnight for now, but we'd love to have you back on the show. It's been a very informative talk, and we'd love to see you, show us the magic next time around.
Yeah.
So, you can look forward to that.
Happy to do that. Just let me know, and I'll be here. Cool.
Thanks very much. Stay safe. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, that was the wonderful James Estes, the very knowledgeable, very passionate brand Ocho, Tequila Ocho ambassador, who with a lot to share with us. And we hope to welcome him back next week, because a guy that knows that much surely knows how to make a great cocktail too. He walks the walk and talks the talk. So that's all from us today for day 3 of week 3 of ALYFE Connects. Tomorrow we are back with another day full of workshops and expert insights. Tomorrow morning we welcome Gabriella Robinson, the professional master of ceremonies, to talk us through her journey into the industry. We welcome fitness expert Jonathan, who'll be talking with us about some tips, tricks, and how to stay motivated during the lockdown period, before finishing the day with another round of live music featuring the brilliant Dasha and Puva, both of whom are returning to our screens tomorrow night. We cannot wait for that. So until then, good night. See you tomorrow. Stay safe. Goodbye.